All right, let's dive right in, folks. Bitcoin, it's a word that sparks curiosity, excitement, maybe even a little bit of confusion.
Yeah, a lot of buzz around it for sure.
But today we're cutting through the hype to get to the heart of what Bitcoin really is and why it matters.
That's a big one.
So we've got three great sources to guide us on this deep dive. Wikipedia for a solid overview.
Always a good place to start.
A really insightful video from 99 Bitcoins that explains the concepts in such a clear way.
Yeah, their videos are great.
And then we'll bring in some practical perspectives from Coinbase.
Yeah, they've got that real world experience.
You know, the whole exchange side of things.
Exactly.
So before we get into the technical nitty-gritty, I think it's helpful to step back and look at the bigger picture, like why Bitcoin emerged in the first place.
Okay, sounds good.
And 99 Bitcoins does this brilliantly by taking us on a little journey through the history of money.
Ah, yes. From bartering to digital currency.
Right. It all starts with bartering, trading goods and services directly.
Yeah, like salt, wheat, shells, you name it.
Exactly. Those were the early forms of money.
It's fascinating how those things held value.
Right. Because they were scarce and useful and, people agreed they had value.
And it kind of worked for a while.
Yeah, until it became impractical, especially as societies grew larger and more complex.
Then we moved to gold, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Gold emerged as this sort of universal form of money because it was durable, portable, and, relatively scarce.
Yeah, it was a game changer.
It really was, and it worked pretty well for centuries.
Until
we transitioned to fiat currency, which is what we use today.
the paper money.
Yeah, and this is where the whole concept of trust really comes into play.
Because fiat currency isn't backed by anything tangible like gold.
Exactly. It's essentially a promise from the government that this paper or, these digital numbers in our bank accounts actually have value.
It's all about trust in the system.
Yeah, trust in the government, trust in the banks. And 99 Bitcoins argues that this system, while convenient, has some inherent flaws.
Well, yeah, we've seen what can happen when that trust is broken.
Exactly. Think about the financial crises, the hyperinflation in Venezuela, or even just, cases of corruption and mismanagement within banks.
Yeah, like the Wells Fargo scandal.
Exactly. Those are all symptoms of a centralized system where power is concentrated in the hands of a few.
And that's where Bitcoin comes in, right?
Right. It emerges as this radical alternative, a decentralized system that aims to cut out the middleman, the banks, the governments, and put the power back in the hands of the people.
Pretty revolutionary stuff.
It really is. And it all starts with this mysterious figure, Satoshi Nakamoto.
Ah, the legend.
Yeah, no one knows who they are, but in 2008, they released this white paper that outlined the concept of Bitcoin.
The Bitcoin Bible.
Exactly. And it essentially describes this peer-to-peer electronic cash system that operates on something called the blockchain.
Okay, now we're getting into the techie stuff.
I know, but the blockchain is really the key to understanding how Bitcoin works.
It's like the foundation of the whole thing.
Yeah, think of it as a public ledger, a record of every Bitcoin transaction ever made, and it's not stored in one central location.
No, it's distributed across a network of computers all over the world.
Exactly. So it's incredibly secure and transparent, almost impossible to hack or manipulate.
That's pretty wild. So anyone can see every transaction.
In theory, yes, but they're not linked to your personal information.
So it's kind of anonymous.
Yeah, it's pseudo-anonymous, meaning your transactions are recorded on the blockchain, but they're not directly tied to your identity.
Interesting, like a digital trail, but without your name attached to it.
Exactly. And this is just scratching the surface, folks.
There's so much more to explore.
Right. We haven't even talked about mining yet, which is how new Bitcoins are created and how transactions are verified.
Yeah, we'll get into all that good stuff.
And then there's the whole investment side of things, Bitcoin's volatility, its potential as a store of value. It's a whole fascinating world.
We're just getting warmed up.
Exactly. So buckle up, deep divers, because we're about to go even deeper into the world of Bitcoin.
Let's do it.
I'm excited about this one. Are you ready?
I am. Let's get into it.
Okay, so we've established that Bitcoin is this decentralized system, right?
Right. No central authority controlling it.
Which is a huge departure from our traditional financial systems.
Yeah, it's a whole new way of thinking about money.
Exactly. And one of the key challenges that Bitcoin solves, and that 99 Bitcoins explains really well, is this thing called the double spend problem.
Oh, yeah. The digital dilemma.
Right. Because with digital currency, In theory, you could copy and paste the same digital file, the same coin, and spend it multiple times.
Like counterfeiting, but in the digital world.
Exactly. And in traditional systems, banks prevent this by having that central control. They keep track of all the transactions and make sure you're not spending the same money twice.
But Bitcoin doesn't have a central authority.
Right. So how does it solve this problem?
Well, that's where mining comes in.
Ah, mining, the mysterious process that everyone's talking about.
It's not as complicated as it sounds.
Well, let's break it down then, because it's a crucial part of the whole Bitcoin ecosystem.
Okay, so imagine this. You got a bunch of computers all over the world, and they're all competing to solve complex mathematical problems.
These are the miners, right?
Exactly. They're using their computing power to try and solve these puzzles. And the first one to find the solution gets to add a new block of transactions to the blockchain.
Okay, so they're essentially verifying and recording the transactions.
Right. And for their efforts, they get rewarded with newly minted Bitcoins.
So that's how new Bitcoins are created.
Exactly. And it's also how the system prevents that double spending, because the miners are constantly checking the blockchain to make sure that no one is trying to spend the same Bitcoin twice.
It's like a giant decentralized accounting system.
And it's all powered by this incentive structure. The miners are motivated to do the work because they get rewarded with Bitcoins.
It's pretty ingenious when you think about it.
It is. It's this self-regulating system that's designed to be secure and transparent.
And Wikipedia mentions that this whole process requires a lot of computing power, which has led to concerns about energy consumption.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
But I guess it's a trade-off, right? You're getting this incredibly secure and decentralized system, but it comes at a cost.
Well, and there are people working on ways to make mining more energy efficient.
That's good to hear, because sustainability is definitely a key factor to consider.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got the blockchain, we've got mining, but how does this all actually work for individuals? Like, how do you actually get and use Bitcoin?
All right, well, first you need a digital wallet. That's like your bank account for Bitcoin.
Coinbase talks a lot about this, right?
Yeah, they're a popular exchange where you can buy and sell Bitcoin, and they also offer wallets to store your Bitcoin.
And they mention these things called public and private keys.
Ah, yes, the keys to the kingdom.
Okay, break it down for me. What are these keys all about?
Your private key is basically like your password.
Mhm.
It's what gives you access to your Bitcoin, and it's super important to keep it safe and secure.
Don't lose it.
Exactly, and then your public key is like your account number. You can share it with people so they can send you Bitcoin.
So it's kind of like online banking, but with an extra layer of security.
Yeah, and control. Because you're the only one who holds your private key, no bank or government can access your Bitcoin without it.
That's pretty empowering, right? You're in complete control of your own funds.
Exactly, and that's one of the key appeals of Bitcoin.
But Coinbase also emphasizes that Bitcoin transactions are pseudo-anonymous.
Right, which means they're recorded on the blockchain, but they're not directly linked to your personal information.
So it's like a balancing act between transparency and privacy.
Exactly, and the level of anonymity you have depends on how you use Bitcoin and the steps you take to protect your privacy.
Wikipedia mentions that it's not completely anonymous, though, right?
Yeah, there are ways to potentially trace transactions back to individuals.
So it's not a foolproof system for those who are seeking complete anonymity.
Right, it's important to be aware of the limitations.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the history of money, the blockchain, mining, wallets, keys, anonymity.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but hopefully it's starting to make sense.
Yeah, we're building a solid foundation here.
Exactly. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore what you can actually do with Bitcoin, like how you can use it in the real world.
The practical applications.
Exactly. And then we'll delve into the investment side of things, the price fluctuations, the potential risks and rewards. It's going to be fascinating.
I'm looking forward to it.
So stay tuned, deep divers, because
Yeah.
you're just getting started.
This is going to be good. Welcome back, deep divers.
All right. Are you ready to jump back into the world of Bitcoin?
I am. Let's do it.
Okay. So last time we laid the groundwork, we talked about the tech behind Bitcoin, the blockchain, mining, all that good stuff.
The foundation.
Exactly. But now I want to get into the nitty gritty, like what can you actually do with Bitcoin?
Okay, yeah, let's talk practical applications.
Because it's not just some abstract concept, right? It's actually being used in the real world.
Exactly. And it's becoming more mainstream all the time.
Like 99 Bitcoins showed all those different ways people are using Bitcoin today.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Like, remember that guy who bought 2 pizzas with 10,000 Bitcoins back in 2010?
Oh yeah, the legendary pizza purchase.
And those pizzas are now worth like what, hundreds of millions of dollars?
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
It just shows how much Bitcoin has grown in value over the years.
And how early adopters, some of them anyway, have reaped huge rewards.
Right, but it's not just about speculation and getting rich, right?
No, not at all.
There are actually legitimate use cases for Bitcoin, like, sending money across borders.
Yeah, remittances, that's a big one.
Because it can be way cheaper and faster than traditional methods, especially for people in developing countries.
And Coinbase highlighted how some companies are even starting to accept Bitcoin as payment. You can book flights, hotels, buy gift cards, even donate to charities with Bitcoin.
So it's gradually becoming more integrated into our everyday lives.
Exactly. It's slowly but surely making its way into the mainstream.
But 99 Bitcoins also talks about Bitcoin as an investment.
Right. That's the other side of the coin.
And it's been a wild ride, right? The price has gone up and down like a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
But why is it so volatile?
Well, there are a lot of factors at play. News events, regulations, even just market sentiment.
Yeah, like if Elon Musk tweets about Bitcoin, the price can go crazy.
Exactly. It's still a relatively new asset class, so it's prone to these big swings.
So for someone who's thinking about investing in Bitcoin, what should they keep in mind?
Well, first and foremost, do your research.
Don't just jump in blindly.
Exactly. Understand the technology, understand the risks, and never invest more than you could afford to lose.
Because it's a high risk, high reward kind of investment.
Yeah, you could make a lot of money, but you could also lose a lot.
Coinbase mentions this concept of scarcity. How does that play into Bitcoin's value?
Right, so unlike traditional currencies, which governments can print as much as they want, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins.
It's a limited supply.
Exactly, and that scarcity is built into the code. It can't be changed.
So as more people adopt Bitcoin and the demand goes up, but the supply stays the same.
The price goes up.
Right. It's basic economics.
Supply and demand.
But Coinbase also talks about Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. Can you explain that?
Sure, so when governments print more money, the value of that currency goes down.
Right.
That's inflation.
Right. Your money buys less stuff.
Exactly. But Bitcoin is designed to be resistant to inflation because its supply is fixed.
So it's like a safe haven for your money.
Some people see it that way, especially in times of economic uncertainty.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's go back to those miners for a second.
The hardworking folks who keep the network running.
Right, because we talked about how they get rewarded with new Bitcoins for verifying transactions.
Block reward.
But what happens when all the Bitcoins have been mined?
Ah, good question. Well, that's where transaction fees come in.
Okay, so every Bitcoin transaction has a small fee attached to it.
Right. And those fees go to the miners as an incentive to keep verifying transactions.
So it's like a built-in mechanism to ensure the long-term sustainability of the network.
Exactly. Even when all the Bitcoins have been mined, the miners will still be incentivized to keep things running smoothly.
It's a pretty clever system, I gotta say.
It is. It's a testament to the ingenuity of Satoshi Nakamoto.
Speaking of Satoshi, there's all this speculation about who they are, whether they'll ever reveal themselves.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest mysteries in the tech world.
And 99 Bitcoins even touches on the possibility that Satoshi could reappear and, dump all their Bitcoins on the market.
Oh yeah, the Satoshi dump scenario. That would definitely shake things
It
up.
would cause chaos, right? The price would probably plummet.
It's a risk, but it's also highly unlikely.
Well, let's hope it doesn't happen.
I think it's safe to say that most people in the Bitcoin community don't want that to happen.
Okay, so we've talked about the practical uses of Bitcoin, the investment potential, the risks, the rewards, the mystery of Satoshi.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have, but there's one more big piece of the puzzle we need to address. The broader implications of Bitcoin.
The big picture stuff.
Exactly. Like, what does Bitcoin's rise mean for the world as we know it?
That's the million-dollar question.
And that's what we're going to explore in the final part of our deep dive.
The grand finale.
So stay tuned, deep divers, because things are about to get really interesting. Okay, so we've talked about the tech, the investments, the pizza.
The pizza, yeah, that was a big one.
But now let's zoom out even further. Like, what does Bitcoin's rise mean for the world? The big picture stuff.
Yeah, the implications, the ripple effects.
Exactly. And 99 Bitcoins kind of lays out this vision of, Bitcoin challenging the traditional financial system.
Yeah, disrupting the status quo.
Right. Could it actually become a major global currency?
It's a fascinating question, and I think it depends on a lot of factors. Adoption rates, regulations, how the technology evolves.
Yeah, it's still early days, but we're already seeing some interesting developments.
Like what?
Well, Coinbase talks about these Bitcoin debit cards, which basically let you spend Bitcoin at any merchant that accepts, regular debit cards.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those. So it's bridging the gap between the crypto world and the traditional financial system.
Exactly. And then there's the whole remittance thing, which we touched on earlier.
Yeah, sending money across borders.
Right. And Bitcoin has the potential to make that process so much faster, cheaper, and more accessible, especially for people in developing countries.
Yeah, it could really empower individuals and, potentially even reshape global economies.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. It's like this technology that was born on the internet is now starting to have real-world impact.
But it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right?
Well, yeah, there were challenges.
Like, remember those ethical concerns we talked about? The energy consumption of mining, the potential for a digital divide?
Right. Those are important issues that need to be addressed.
And it sounds like people are working on solutions.
Yeah, there's a lot of innovation happening in the Bitcoin space. Like, for example, there are more energy-efficient mining methods being developed.
Oh, like what?
Well, Wikipedia mentions this thing called proof of stake, which is an alternative to the current proof of work system that Bitcoin uses.
And that would use less energy.
Yeah, significantly less. It's a whole different way of validating transactions and securing the network.
Okay, interesting. And what about the digital divide? Like, how do we ensure that everyone has access to this technology, not just the tech-savvy folks?
Well, education is key. And Coinbase talks about initiatives that are aimed at bringing financial literacy and access to crypto to underserved communities.
Yeah, because we don't want to create a system where only a select few benefit from this technology.
Exactly. It's about making sure everyone has the opportunity to participate.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the technical intricacies to the broader implications.
It's been a journey.
It has, but there's one last thing I want to touch on, and it's kind of a big one. What if Satoshi Nakamoto reappears?
Oh, wow, that's the ultimate what if.
Right, like what would that mean for Bitcoin?
Well, it would definitely send shockwaves through the community,
Yeah.
and it's hard to say what the impact would be.
Yeah, would they be hailed as a hero, or would people be skeptical, after all these years of anonymity?
And would they try to influence the direction of Bitcoin, or would they just, fade back into obscurity?
It's a mystery, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see if Satoshi ever decides to reveal himself.
It would be the biggest story in the crypto world.
For sure, but even without Satoshi's reappearance, I think it's safe to say that Bitcoin has already made its mark on the world.
Oh, yeah. It's changed the way we think about money, about finance, about technology.
And who knows what the future holds, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be an interesting ride.
Absolutely. So buckle up, deep divers, because the Bitcoin revolution is just getting started.
That's it for our deep dive into Bitcoin, folks. Hopefully you're walking away with a better understanding of this fascinating technology and all its potential.
Yeah, it's been a great exploration.
And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg, so keep learning, keep exploring, and stay curious.